Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Local News. There's 82 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan. There's 6 new cases in the Northwest Zone, the zone that includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 707 cases are considered active, 42 of those in the Northwest region. 20 people are currently in hospital, 6 people in intensive care. 41 more people have recovered. The growing sense of Western alienation was one takeaway from the Saskatchewan provincial election. The Buffalo Party didn't win any seats but came in third in the popular vote, even though the party only ran in 17 candidates across the province. Jace Mackey has more on a group of Albertans who'd like to grow on that success in Alberta.
Albertans aren't asking for equality, they're demanding it, and Ottawa had better listen.
That was the main sentiment for this group of Albertans that gathered in Dewberry on Wednesday to hear from the leader of the Wildrose Independence Party, Paul Hinman. Hinman says he's fighting for a better Alberta.
And a better Alberta is one that has our house in order and not being dictated by Ottawa, telling us what we can and can't do, and being able to keep our money here. Our livelihood is being sucked out, it's being used to buy votes in other parts of the country, and they're shutting down our industry and our workers, and these people understand it here.
The Wildrose Independence Party rose to the political scene after the 2019 federal election saw Alberta elect Conservatives in all but one riding, while Liberal wins in the East helped Prime Minister Justin Trudeau hold on to a minority government. The party wants to see Alberta have more independence by creating its own revenue agency, police force, and more.
We should have our own police force, we should have our own pension plan, we should have our own immigration policy, we should have our own insurance, employment insurance policy. And all of those are federal, and all of those are slanted against Alberta workers and our province. And we need to bring those things back, put our house in order.
In Saskatchewan, the Buffalo Party has a similar message and surprised many on election night, finishing second in a handful of ridings and third in the province-wide popular vote. Supporters of Alberta independence are encouraged by those results.
I actually think if we were to have an election today, that Alberta is further ahead than Saskatchewan, and you'd see more votes for the Wildrose than you saw for the Buffalo Party.
Well, I like the response of Premier Moe when he said, "We hear you and we're going to make changes." If our Premier Kenney, can get a hint that we need less talk and more action, then we'll have done our job.
For Primetime Local News, I'm Jace Mackey.
Earlier today at the Lloydminster Comprehensive High School, the students held a Fear Factor-inspired event as well as a food drive for the community. The Fear Factor Challenge was held by the leadership class. With COVID-19, they have to find new ways to keep students engaged.
We try to do some event every month. And usually in September we would do some welcome back activities, which we did through Cahoots this year, which were less riveting than we usually have a whole dance week and so forth. Halloween we always do this. Usually we have a haunted house going on Friday as well, which has been our tradition for like 5-6 years now. We've done a pretty big haunted house. And we have a costume dressing thing on Friday. But this is just a whole week of spirit activities just to keep the whole week going fun.
The school is also currently hosting a We Scare Hunger food drive event with the help of the leadership students.
With the pandemic, the Olive Tree was at, kind of a crossroads trying to decide how they were going to get all the food and stuff in for Christmas and for Thanksgiving and all that stuff. And so when we brought up the idea to our leadership group chat about doing this one in particular, everyone was excited right away. Our whole point of leadership is to help our community, and so being able to do something like this at this level for our community was really important to us.
Hosting events like Fear Factor is one way the leadership students get to know each other better while also helping the school.
It's always exciting to see kids take a passion for what they like. And leadership's really interesting. You have kids who are very outgoing, who will lead activities, lead pep rallies. You have other kids who are behind the scenes who just want to, help out. And these two events combined have probably 2/3 of our leadership group involved in some way. And what's their strength? So it's a great team builder.
The food drive goes for the rest of the week, and they are opening the donations up to the community on Friday.
So far we have 424 items, and today is day 3, so we will have more after today. Our goal is 1,000. We would love to get more than 1,000.
On Friday from 4:30 to 5:30, I believe, we're having the community, if they would like to, bring in donations for us to come and take them to the olive tree. So they come drop them off at the school. And so anyone in the community who wants to make a donation that may not have a kid that goes to the school is more than welcome to bring in donations to help us reach our goal.
The donations will be going towards the olive tree and the Salvation Army. Jasmine King, Primetime Local News. Welcome back. Alberta Beef Producers is looking for input from its members as it begins this fall's resolution meetings. Eric Bay has more.
The meetings allow producers to share their opinions and priorities when it comes to the beef industry, which will help Alberta beef producers shape its plan for 2021.
Our resolution process gives producers the opportunity to influence ABP policies, priorities, and activities. Producers need to register for these meetings and can do so at albertabeef.org/producers/events, and resolutions can be submitted to the ABP office.
All ABP events are moving online because of the pandemic, but the group hopes this gives more people a chance to attend virtually.
Alberta Beef Producers will host a virtual producer town hall on November 26th and 2 resolution meetings on December 2nd and 3rd. All 3 of these meetings will begin at 6:30 p.m. Producers will hear an overview of the work done by ABP this year and presentations from our national organizations.
ABP is also reminding members to participate in this year's delegate election, with voting held through mail-in ballots or online.
A voter election package is being mailed to all eligible producers who must choose only one method to cast their vote. The package includes all of the details on how to vote, the candidate's information, and where to register for the virtual meetings. Under the new zone structure, we have elections in the southeast and southwest zones.
Meetings will continue to be held online by ABP until further notice. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
Now we'll take a look at your ag prices. Grand Prairie Storm have a new old face behind the bench. In this week's Around the AJHL, Evan Kenny looks at Mike Vanderkamp's second stint with the Storm.
With over 25 years of coaching experience and multiple championships under his belt, Mike Vanderkamp is back in a familiar setting.
But the biggest reason why I came back here is because of the people. I still know a lot of the people that are involved on the board of directors. There were people that had been involved here even when I worked here before, so I was familiar with them and where their heart lies and how much they care about the Storm and the type of organization that they want to run. And so for me, that was the sort of icing on the cake for me. It was there's a handful of people that I was familiar with that were directly involved with this team that I knew I could trust were in it for all the right reasons, and I was really looking forward to getting back involved with people like that.
After spending the past 9 years in the BCHL, Vanderkamp is back in Northern Alberta. In the 9-year tenure, Vanderkamp spent the last 2 with the Cowichan Valley Capitals. Vanderkamp led the Capitals to their best finish in nearly 10 years.
In my first season there, the team was coming off of being a last place team in the entire league. Had only won 10 games the year before. And we ended up just sort of tearing it down and starting it all over again. We only had 2 players actually on the team that year that were on it previously. So it was a real big changeover. And I almost jokingly said we were like an expansion team, a whole bunch of new players. And we took some great strides that first season. Record-wise, we improved, but we still, wasn't great. But we always stayed true to the cause and to the process. And when we got to playoffs, we were able to. We played a first-place team in the whole league, and we were able to upset them in the first round of the playoffs. And last year, it was my second season there. We brought back a good nucleus of players, and we also had some really good additions come and join us too through our scouting and recruiting process. And we just had a really good team.
Vanderkamp is looking to continue his success on to the Grand Prairie Storm. In his first stint with the Storm, they found success in the 2008-09 season when they knocked off the Lloydminster Bobcats en route to an AJHL championship.
As we built a good team, I think that heart and desire and that the way that the guys treated the whole experience with the Storm was pretty, was obvious where their hearts lied. They really had their hearts into this thing, and we all did. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good group. We had a really good couple of seasons, but it did obviously came to a head there in the 08-09 season, winning a championship. And I know that our group of leaders and older players at the time, a lot of them were local area players, and it was a really special moment for everyone involved. We got a lot of really good players. We've made a lot of changes lately again, and we're actually just in the midst of trying to get our numbers kind of back in order here again, as we've added a couple of veteran players to our mix in the last few days here too. So, you know what? We believe we can be a competitive team now. I think that's really important to the organization, that we are a competitive team now.
The Storm will continue their exhibition schedule with games against the Fort McMurray Oil Barons this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Jasmine. Looking at temperatures right now, still sitting at 0 degrees right now as we move out west there. 4s out in Edson, Whitecourt, and in Edmonton, along with Red Deer. 3 right now we see in Rocky Mountain House and Athabasca. Then we see 5 degrees out in Jasper. Of course, we did get lots of snow in those earlier parts in the afternoon between that 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock range there. And we saw little bits and pieces of it around that 4 o'clock range as well. 0 in North Battleford, 5 in Saskatoon, 1 degree in Prince Albert right now. We see 2 in Meadow Lake, and then 2 degrees right now out in Melfort. Now, as we look up north, it's a little bit colder as that trend kind of continues up north. -5s in La Loche, Buffalo Narrows, and Stony Rapids and Walston Lake there. We see a little bit warmer in La Ronge and Flin Flon sitting at -1. We see Uranium City, one of the colder areas right now, at -6. As we look in northern Alberta, see kind of compare the two right now. Still pretty cold in areas like the higher north areas like Fort McMurray, Fort Chipeway, and High Level as well. We see a little bit warmer temperatures on the positives in Peace River at 1 degree along with Slave Lake, and then 3 degrees right now in Grand Prairie. Now, as we look at southern Alberta, it's the complete opposite. And it's, of course, we see very close to 10 degrees in Lethbridge, and then we see 10 degrees there in Medicine Hat, with 3 in Calgary, and then 5 degrees in both Coronation and in Banff as well. We see 8 across in southern Saskatchewan, in Kindersley, Swift Current, and Moose Jaw, and then a little bit colder in Regina and Estevan, sitting at 4 degrees, and then 0 right now out in Yorkton. Now, as we look across the rest of the country, of course, Edmonton getting some sun as well at 4 degrees there, as you can see there. 4 also in Regina with some of that cloud coverage, and then -3 in Winnipeg. And cloud coverage is pretty much the common thing we see across most of the country here. We see 0 in Quebec City with some cloud coverage, 3 in St. John's. Halifax have some showers currently right now at 7 degrees, and then 6 degrees right now in Toronto. Now 13 degrees we see in Vancouver, fairly warmer out there. Yellowknife with all sun and clear skies at -6, and then -4 with some rain up in Whitehorse. Now, as we look into tomorrow, we're going to be a little bit colder compared to what we saw today, but not by much. Of course, we're currently right now at 0, so we're not going to be that much colder than what we are now. -1 expected the daytime high for tomorrow. We could see some more flurries active in our area. -1 in Marwayne, St. Paul, and Cold Lake as well for tomorrow. -2 up in Bonnyville and Pearceland, 5 degrees for Edmonton, and 0 in Lac La Biche, 3 in Vegreville right now, with 5 in both Wainwright and in Provost, 8 degrees in Macklin tomorrow, with 3 out in North Battleford. Then we see -2s in Green Lake and Meadow Lake as well, and then -5 in Isle La Crosse. Now, here's what we could see for the next 7 days. -1 Saturday, 6 degrees on Sunday. That's when we're going to start to see the temperatures get a little bit warmer, with 11 degrees on Monday, and then we see 10 degrees on Tuesday. So next week we are expecting some fairly nice weather for the first 3 days of the new week, and then we'll see 1 degree on Thursday there, with mostly some sun and cloud mixes as well. But there is still a possibility we could get some more snow tomorrow as well. Let's look at your weather for now. We'll have more primetime local news after the break.
Welcome back. For some parents, chatting with their sons after school is like squeezing blood from a stone. It's just a string of one-word grunts, I don't knows, or can't remembers. Lowell Gregory has more on what's behind it and how parents can get their boys talking.
Make sure you're buckled up right.
For 8-year-old Jeremy, the drive home from school is a time to decompress. Dad Doug Lorenz says he waits until dinner time to ask the big question, how was your day?
He just lived that day. He doesn't want to press the repeat button right away.
The author of From Boys to Men and mother of 4 boys, Maggie Dent, says parents will often get more answers out of their sons if they hold off on the questions.
We often feel as a mum, what I need to do right now is reconnect with all these moments I've missed in your life. In actual fact, that can make a boy feel really stressed.
Dent says school can bring a lot of stressors for boys. They have to sit still, listen, follow the teacher's expectations, and remember all kinds of things. As a result, school pickup brings a release.
It's like, oh my God, finally I'm safe, but he's just filled with cortisol. So the chances of him having a massive meltdown. So the last thing we do is ever ask them a question right then.
Dent recommends waiting for the inquisition until after some playtime, downtime, or a snack. And then, if the answers are still hard to come by, she has a little trick. Ask him how one of his friends is doing.
When we want to find out how school really is, we will ask him, how's Johnny going? Is he okay? Because I was wondering if he could sit still, because you know how he always runs? That might be your son who's the runner, right? But what we actually, that has been a bit hard.
We did some questions on rocks and minerals.
Lorenz hopes by encouraging Jeremy to talk about the little things, he'll open up about the big things.
The more that he's comfortable with it now, that hopefully we can continue that trend at least, as much as we can as the years go on.
Laurel Gregory, Global News.
We've heard a lot of great things about Joey Moss from a lot of different people over the past few days, but we hadn't heard from the great one of his best and longtime friends, Wayne Gretzky. Yesterday, Gretzky reminisced about Joey. John Sexsmith reports.
This is my good pal, Joey Moss.
Wayne Gretzky and Joey Moss became best buddies back in the early 80s.
It was an honor for me to know him. He was a great friend. He lived with me off and on for a lot of years, and we spent a lot of time together. Just a wonderful young man, and we'll truly miss him.
Gretzky was dating Joey's sister during the early part of his career. He saw serious potential in Joey, and he had a hand in the hiring of the young adult who was developmentally challenged.
It worked out from day one that he was great for us, and I hope to think that we were great for him.
So Joey took on the task of Oilers' dressing room attendant. But this wasn't just some token appointment. Joey worked hard. He did his job well, and his role spanned 4 decades.
He brought a ray of sunshine and a lot of fond memories to all of us.
It turned out to be a very valuable lesson on inclusiveness.
He was never out of place, and we never made him feel out of place. We treated him like everybody else in the locker room.
And while numerous Oilers players were achieving stardom, so was Joey. His popularity had a major impact on the Down syndrome community in particular.
Parents who had kids that are mentally challenged saw Joey Moss living a relatively normal life, fitting into society and being accepted.
Plus, everyone seemed to appreciate Joey's charitable efforts across the country, including the House of Commons yesterday.
He leaves a big legacy with his kindness and dedication to our community as we continue to recognize the contributions that people with developmental disabilities make to our society thanks to Joey's passion.
Joey was a winner.
He has more championships probably than Hugh Campbell. He's got a lot of jewelry.
And because Joey Moss is championed so much, the question is, how should his legacy live on? A banner raising? Renaming the downtown community arena? A statue?
We got to figure out the right way to honor him that'll last a lifetime. He deserves that.
John Sexsmith, Global Sports.
After public health officials blame part of the current COVID surge on Thanksgiving, it's beginning to look like Christmas is the next potential risk. Indoor public gatherings are fueling the spread, so the virus could be the Grinch, with infectious disease experts advising Canadians to prepare to forego holiday traditions like family get-togethers and church. Now we will be taking a look at your pet pad pictures. Thank you to everyone who submitted a picture to our Facebook page, and we will be giving away a pet pad gift card tomorrow.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
Well, I'm joined today with Michelle Hamilton, a registered psychologist with Beyond Balance here in Lloydminster. Now, Michelle, of course, with the weather changing and the holidays coming up fairly soon, we're talking now today about seasonal affective disorder. So for those that aren't too familiar with it, what is seasonal affective disorder?
Seasonal affective disorder is really a rather common form of low mood, or sometimes to the point of depression, that is related to the seasonal changes, in particular, most often in the fall and winter months, a recurring pattern of low mood and depression associated with that time cycle and seasonal cycle. Very likely related to the reduced amount of sunlight and to the reduced amount of activity that many people who live in colder regions like Canada are likely to experience.
What are some well-known symptoms when it comes to seasonal affective disorder?
Well, it would be characterized by certainly low mood, loss of energy, feeling kind of lethargic, or just basically lack of energy, loss of interest in things that used to interest you, and feeling sluggish. Many times people who are low in mood feel pretty irritable and feeling inclined towards using carbs, and cravings like food is another component. People often seem to crave a lot more carbohydrates in the winter months, and that's another important thing. Common changes to appetite, to either sometimes eating less, feeling no appetite, but I think in SAD it's more commonly an increase in appetite. Problems with sleeping, feeling disconnected, and for people with more severe instances of seasonal affective disorder or pre-existing depression and mood disorders, there can be a worsening of symptoms that in cases that would be more inclined to be hopefully working with a doctor, the potential for feeling hopelessness, and for some folks, the thoughts about death or suicide. Okay, obviously, when people are experiencing depression at any point in time, and especially at this time of year, to be very mindful of themselves and the people that they care about, to monitor for symptoms that are worsening or that are becoming problematic, and be prepared to seek out the advice of your family physician or a psychiatrist if you have access to one, and certainly the importance of talking to someone, a counselor or a psychologist, who can help you understand what you're experiencing and support you in taking proper care of yourself.
How do you think it'll look this year for some people that do suffer from this disorder because of the COVID-19 pandemic? Is it going to have a bigger effect on people this time around?
Well, yeah, I'm afraid there is a real combination of factors this fall and leading into winter that could make this a really challenging year. I think there's all kinds of, information through statistics that's coming forward, but we can all kind of relate to how we ourselves are feeling, and some of the people we've talked to with COVID, and the lack of connection with people, the social isolation and the fear and the uncertainty, I think all in itself are going to be a real challenge to mental health this year. So all the more reason to be really careful and planning ahead and setting some intentions for making sure that, number one, you're getting enough physical exercise. In Canada, when things get cold out, we usually hibernate a lot more. We've got to think about ways to be out and active in as much as possible in the sunshine or in nature and accessing fresh air. So changing up our routines to ensure that we can be outside during the short little window of sunlight, I think, is one of the most important things that I will be doing and will want to encourage people to do. Okay. Also, to look for ways that we can have face-to-face contact with human beings in our circle. So as much as because of the COVID social isolation, we may not be able to see in person family and friends, but if we do have someone that we connect with in the workplace or in our home, make sure we're getting enough face-to-face, really engaged, attuned interaction so that we are experiencing that need that humans have for social connection.
Now, are there any other additional thoughts or advice that you want to add on top of what you've already just said about how people could deal with seasonal affective disorder with the COVID pandemic?
I think that, as I said, I think that there's a lot of common elements of the changes that people experience during the winter months. So it may not be necessarily an official diagnosis of seasonal affective disorder. And either way, I think there's a few other important things I'd suggest that people do to sort of proactively support their mental health. So as I was saying, in addition to exercise, sunlight, and human contact, I want to also encourage that people might consider looking into vitamin supplements at this time of the year and throughout the year, vitamin D, vitamin C, and probiotics, as well as omega-3s. I'm not a doctor, but I've done enough research into some beneficial supplements for mental health, and I myself would frequently use and encourage people to make sure they're getting these kinds of supplements, especially through the winter months.
And lastly, how can people reach out or get help if they do need it?
The effects of COVID on mental health is real, and many people are struggling. There are all kinds of various mental health options available in our region. Some are covered through healthcare and so therefore free. Some, like psychologists in private practice, are not covered through provincial healthcare. But many folks who have employment and benefits have access to a certain number of dollars per year that they can put towards the services of a psychologist. So I would just really encourage people, if you're struggling, reach out for help.
Well, Michelle, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for giving us some insight on, more about this disorder, because I know it affects a lot of people. So thank you so much.
I'm joined here today with Jess Johnson with WBF. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good. So Women Building Futures and Portage College have teamed up for this driver and operator program for women in Cold Lake and the surrounding area. This is so exciting. Can you tell us more about how this started?
Yeah, absolutely. So about, a while ago now, WBF, or Women Building Futures, was the recipient of some funding from the Government of Canada through the Women in Construction Fund. And the intention of that was for us to support women across Alberta and support them with economic prosperity, which is our mission. And so one of the communities of focus was Cold Lake in that region. And so when we looked at the opportunities there, we formed a natural partnership with Portage College and some community organizations to make this happen. And yeah, we're really excited, for sure.
And this program is tuition free, which is such a great opportunity for women in the area. How is this funded exactly?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's funded through the Government of Canada Women in Construction Fund. And what we do is we leverage our employment partnerships and other partnerships in the region to bring the course to fruition. So yeah, it is tuition free for women and with a focus on employment at the end of the programming.
And the program has room for 12 women?
That's right, yes. Yeah, so the application process is open. And we're hoping to get quite a few applicants and get some amazing women into the program.
And why do you believe this program has such an importance for women in the community?
Yeah, so at Women Building Futures, our mission is economic prosperity for women. And we do that through training for careers in the related occupations. And so we focus on supporting women that are un or underemployed into economic prosperity. And this program is another way that we can do that. And we know that when women have economic prosperity, it changes their lives, their children's lives, and their communities.
And will the global pandemic, COVID-19, cause any issues for this program or during, do you believe?
Yeah, so navigating, training during a pandemic is complicated, but we've done a lot of work on creating policies and procedures to keep both our students and our staff safe. We're following all of the Alberta Health recommendations and obligations. So it's going to look a bit different than our normal training in that anything that can be virtual will be virtual, but we're confident that we can do this in a way that keeps everybody safe. And, during a pandemic more than ever, it's important that we're getting women back to work. We know that women have been disproportionately affected by what's happened over the last few months. And this program is a great way to get them back to work.
And I know you've already brought it up a couple times before, but can you expand a bit more on what the goal is for Portage College and Women Building Futures are trying to reach for women by being in this program?
Yeah, so the goal of the program and the goal of all WBF programs, and I know Portage is aligned with us, is to secure employment for these women at the end of this program and an increase in income. So WBF historically has had about a 90% employment rate coming out of our programs, and generally about a 2.5 times increase in income for women coming out of the program. So that's the goal, and that's what we're working towards together. And Portage has been a great partner to help lift this for us. But we have other partners in the region that have been really supportive as well. So we have a relationship with Tribal Chiefs Employment and Training, and they've been supporting our work in the region.
And when and how can women apply for this program, and when exactly is the deadline for it?
Yeah, so applications are open now. So anyone who's interested in learning more about the program can go on to womenbuildingfutures.com and have a look at our programs. And the end date for the applications is January 11th. So recommend getting your application in early and starting to work with our team on that side.
Perfect. And is there anything else you want to add for women to know about for this program?
Yeah, I would just say, go on, look, explore. If this is something you're interested in, start the application process. I would say share with your sisters, your aunts, and your cousins, and hopefully we can get a great group of women through this and work with employment on the other side.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen.
Thank you.
Taking one last look here at your weather forecast, we could see some more flurries tomorrow as well. The 65% chance there with that high of -1, as well as the same results there for Saturday, but a little bit more sun throughout the day. Then we start to warm up on Sunday with that high of 6 degrees and then 11 degrees on Monday. And then we see 10 degrees on Tuesday. We'll see lots of clear skies for those days on Monday through Wednesday there, and then 1 degree on Thursday. As we start to get a little bit colder throughout the rest of the week there, we could see that trend for the next couple of days as well. After that, as we start to get, of course, into November now, so we could start to see a little bit cooler temperatures.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.